And so I'm gonna use a towel for this first one. I'll probably ditch it at some point to show you an alternative, but we're gonna be mobilizing our ankle joint, okay, all right? Ankle joint is this kind of a turtle shell with two bones that come down into it from our lower leg. They allow us to dorsiflex and plantar flex and invert and evert. You're gonna pop down. Like I said, if you don't have this, this is fine. I'll show you this variation and then the one without it. You're gonna have one knee down and 1 foot forward. You're gonna take your towel and you're gonna wrap it around the very front of your ankle. You don't want it up on your shin, and you're not so down, so low that you're on your foot. You're right in that ankle crease. Now I'm gonna pull back, and I'm actually pulling back towards myself, kind of through my legs, and I'm gonna tilt forward. So I'm pulling back, and I'm moving my knee forward. And I'm gonna go 10 times, 3, and on the 5th one, I'm gonna show you what to do if you don't have your towel. 4, so I'm pulling my ankle back, and I'm shifting my knee forward. And you keep doing that if you have your towel, but if you don't, you take your hand and you flip it, so you have this little C shape, this cup, and you put it right down onto your ankle, and you push back through your hips, and shift forward. 2, 3, keep your chest up. You might feel a stretch on your adductors or your hip flexor, and that's cool. We're here for knees and hips. Might as well stretch them out. And 5. So one little pointer there is as you're going forward, the point at which you stop is the point at which your heel wants to come off the ground. If you're way up here, that's a no-go, okay? So you gotta keep your heel down. How far can you go? There we go. Now we're ultimately looking for you to be able to get your knee past your toes 1 fist width, okay? So I can get my knee past my toes a good 4 inches. And that's pretty normal, pretty natural physiological movement. And we're going back over here. I'm gonna pull, so I'm pulling in the direction of back through my legs. And I'm just shifting forward 10 times. We're getting ready to squat. We're gonna introduce something called a hack squat a little bit later. It's like an old-timey strongman move, but it's great for your foot mobility, your knee mobility, and trunk stability. You kind of hit a lot of things with that coming up in a few minutes here. And we're just doing 10. I'm still pulling and I'm shifting my weight forward, keeping my heel down. And I initially became a physical therapist or got introduced to physical therapy because I sprained my ankles and broke one of them. Spent a lot of time in PT because of my ankles, so I know how important they are. Maybe that's why I like to hammer it home for everybody. All right, so we have a towel, we have a strap, maybe we don't. I'm gonna show you a calf stretch. It's really basic, really straightforward. It's also gonna get you a great hamstring stretch at the same time, something that we're gonna need for our hip hinge a little bit later. And then we're gonna put it all together for our feet and our ankles with a variation of a plank. It's not gonna be a hard style plank like the other day, which got me sweating pretty good, but it is gonna be a plank nonetheless. So you're taking your strap, your towel, whatever it is that's not gonna be stretched, you're gonna go right on the ball of your foot, okay? And you're just coming up. And you might feel the world's biggest stretch behind your leg, and that's great. It should be anywhere between your calf and your hamstring, because your calf muscles, your gastrocnemius, actually goes past your knee and inserts above it. So that's why you might feel it in what your hamstring is. Your hamstring crosses your knee and actually goes and inserts into the bone underneath your calf muscles. So there's a lot of shared tissue, a lot of shared fascia there. And so we're probably stretching both. You want to make sure you're getting good dorsiflexion. We've got about 5 seconds left. And I'm going to switch. And if this is too much for you, just go here and come up and down. And get what you can get, because your stretch is your stretch. You have a sweet spot for every stretch, just like I have a sweet spot. Like my left side's a little tighter than my right, so I shouldn't push that one. And we're just gonna hang out here for 1 minute, getting our body ready to hip hinge and deadlift and squat and hack squat a little bit later. Those of you who just joined, if you can hear it, there's a bunch of jackhammering and concrete sawing going on right next door, so I'm trying to compete with that. Got about 20 seconds left, just stretching, breathing gently. Stretching should be something you want to do again. It should not be something that you say, oh my God, I couldn't do that again. So you're just hanging out, deep breathing. working on the mobility and flexibility of your tissue. And we're gonna go over something a little bit for those of you who struggle with hamstring flexibility, who say, you know, I've stretched my hamstrings all the time and I don't get any better. Well, that kind of shows me it's probably not a flexibility issue or a mobility issue. It's probably more of a stability issue, what's going on in your trunk and in your hips. And that might be for a little bit more of a low back day, but we're also gonna go over some things that might help you today in a little bit. So we're gonna do a plank variation. This might be one of those things that gets you a little bit more calf mobility. So you're gonna be actually on your forearms, not a high plank, not on your hands. We're gonna save our wrists, but we're gonna be down on our forearms. And we're actually gonna be doing heel raises while we're in a plank. And so we're putting all this tension into our stomachs, into our quads, and into our butts, so we can maybe gain some mobility elsewhere in our body instead of that neural tension or attention going to our calves. So we're gonna be down here in our plank position. And we're just holding it. It's not that hard style plank that I showed you the other day where everything's going all out. But I'm squeezing my butt, I'm squeezing my abs, and my legs are nice and straight. And I'm gonna go back into my heels, and I'm gonna go back up on my toes. I'm gonna go back into my heels and up onto my toes 10 times. And I just wanna make sure I am not piking. It is not a pike. You're not gonna gain ankle mobility if you pike your butt up. You're going down, and then you go up. 6, and you have 4 more. Really putting pressure into your toes and your ankles. You got 2 more. And last one. And 4. Okay, so that was 10. A little bit of ab work, a little bit of quads, glutes, while stretching out your ankles. So, where is it? Okay, so my favorite and yours. We're moving on to a hip flexor stretch. We focused a lot on the foot and the ankle, which last week I had mentioned can influence the anterior front portion of our knee, that patellar tendon area that a lot of us have been complaining about. Maybe we've been running more, maybe we've been jumping more. If we have limited ankle mobility, I think we showed you at the start how that can affect the different joints up the chain. But it can put a lot of strain on your patellar tendon if your ankles are limited, as well as your back. But at the same time, a lot of people have been asking me, what do I do for my IT bands? My IT bands are tight. A lot of that comes from your hip and your hip stability. So we're gonna stretch, we're gonna gain some mobility, mobilize them, and then we're gonna use them. We're gonna put it all together for the toes, the ankles, the knees, and the hips with all the squatting and deadlifting we're gonna finish with today. So today's virtual clinic might seem like more of a workout than the other ones in the past. But we're gonna start with a hip flexor stretch. I want to get a little bit more quad involved in mine, so I'm gonna grab my foot. But for those of you who can't get back here, just remember, you're gonna tuck your butt and come up and get nice and tall. So I'm squeezing my butt, stretching out the front of my hip. I'm grabbing here to get a little bit more quad. Now if you go to do that, but you have to lean back, it's not worth doing. Maybe you wanna find a step or a stool that you can just rest your foot on, gets you a little bit more stretch, but you can still maintain a nice tall chest. Ooh, I got a nice glare, change in whiteness going on. We're here for just a minute. Maybe you want to get a little bit more open, so you grab with your opposite hand and turn. But I'm just going to stay here for now. Ooh. It's not a balance exercise, so if you need to hold on to a chair or a couch or a broom, or someone was using a foam roller earlier that I was talking to, which is a pretty good idea, good use of a foam roller. Here we are. And I'd say I'm coming up in about a minute. I have a clock right in front of me, but I forgot to look at it, and I have a watch here that I'll probably need to look at for this one. So then we're switching. Same starting position, tuck butt, chest up, tuck toes in the back if you're staying down. Working on toe mobility wherever we can, right? But I'm coming up here because, like I said, I want my quads to get stretched a little bit. For the hack squats that are coming up, we need lots of great quad mobility. Counted this time. We're going to get a minute on the dot, I swear. So it's Friday, a bunch of days of people giving us some workouts to work on. Maybe we go for a nice walk, work on our mobility and flexibility. Weather's getting a little better. Although it just snowed, I think, in the Northeast. I'm from New Hampshire. I think they got some snow in Boston. That would really be upsetting me right now if I were there. I feel for you guys. So you got somewhere about 10 seconds left. And so just hanging out. And after this, we're going to stretch the posterior capsule of our hip. So yes, we might stretch the muscles out a little bit, but if you took the muscles off of our body, and I probably need that later, I don't know. If we took the muscles off of our body, we'd be left with the ligaments, the tendons, and this stuff called capsule. And the capsule is like a saran wrap covering of the actual joint. And it can actually get thickened or tightened if we don't explore big ranges of motion and use our joints as much as they're intended to. And so this is going to be a stretch that actually will stretch the posterior capsule of your hip. And it kind of feels like a piriformis stretch or a glute stretch, but you should feel it where like your back pocket is on your pants. And so to do this, you're going to be down on all fours. I'll give you a second to get down there. And so I'm going to be working with my right leg at first to show you guys. And so you're going to have a nice neutral spine. You don't want to be rounded underneath here. So neutral spine, you're going to bring that right leg forward, and then you're going to actually cross it to the other side of your left knee. From here, I'm going to kind of lean back and then more out to the right. And I'm just going in and out of it. If I don't feel as much stretch as I think I should, I just move my knee closer to my chest. And if you can't feel this, if you don't feel anything, or maybe you feel a pinch in the front of your hip, just drop down into a pigeon pose or a figure 4 stretch for the back of your hip. So if you don't feel this, maybe you go here and you'll just get more of a stretch for the muscles and you don't worry about the capsule. Maybe your capsule isn't tight, so you didn't feel anything. But for the rest of us, get that leg crossed over and we're just tilting. And if you look at my back foot, look at my toes, always working on it, sneaking it in. I'm always looking to sneak foot and toe work in, as well as glute work. I'm always trying to get my glutes stronger because they're so important. We go to the other side. Neutral spine, cross that leg over, and then leaning out to the side. My left side is clearly tighter than my right. Or at least I feel it. Toes are up. 5, and we're not rushing it. 6, we're just doing 10 on each side. 7. If you get that pinch in the front of your hip on this side, drop down, do a pigeon, figure 4, piriformis, lay on your back and breathe. We're going to be out of it in 3 seconds. So, good, okay.